Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to today's episode. We are going to be talking today about why diets keep you stuck. I'm actually going to walk you through a couple different diets that I know of, that I've tried, and walk you through the reality of what they are, what they teach you, what they don't, and why you are stuck in these cycles of this constant dieting, why you can't get out of it, why you think certain diets work, but I'm going to show you why they don't. And I'm going to tell you what to do to get out of that constant cycle that you feel stuck in. So this was an idea that came to me the other day very naturally as I was weighing out some food on my food scale, which I don't do very often, but it's always such a good reminder that one, it takes 2 seconds to do. It's not complicated. And two, it just reminds me this is how I learned. This is how I can eat intuitively. This is why I don't have to track all the time. Also, this is what people need to know to not feel stuck inside a body that they don't love or that they don't understand, or why they feel like some people have a leg up. Like some people just understand it, right? What am I not understanding about fitness? Why can I keep trying so hard but not look the way that I want or feel the way that I want? This is why. It's this knowledge that you are maybe even fighting so hard against, like, I don't want to track my food. I don't want to weigh my food. That's obsessive. That mindset that you keep telling yourself, that's because if it's obsessive to you, it's because you're doing it wrong. And I know that because I used to do it obsessively as well. And now I help women not do it obsessively any longer because I don't do it obsessively any longer. But if you were looking at it from that point of view, first of all, we need to stop that mentality. Stop telling yourself that you are obsessive with it or that it's a way to be obsessive. It's not. It's just like counting money and keeping track of your money. It's responsible and it's learning how to fuel your body. And it's the only way to understand and get out of that cycle, in my opinion. So a lot of diets do work in the short term. And that's why they leave people frustrated and confused and stuck, because they work. They quote unquote work, right? When I did Beachbody containers, which we'll talk about here in a while, it worked for me. I knew what foods to choose off of the list that it came with. I knew which containers to put it in, and then I could put it on my plate. I knew how I would feel after eating that way. I knew what it was going to make my body look like, and I liked my body, and I did those workouts. Like for the program that I was doing, P90X, it taught me how to do that really well. It taught me how to eat from a food list and how to fill my containers. That's pretty much it though, right? But it did work. So even I thought, oh my gosh, P90X is like the best thing ever. I love the workouts. I love my body. I don't really love eating like this. It's a pain in the ass and I don't really get it. And I don't want to eat out of food containers my entire life, these little tiny colored containers. And they were horrible to wash. Horrible. Washing little tiny lids, the worst thing ever. So like add more Tupperware, right? Terrible idea. But it worked. It quote unquote worked for me. And so I was really hesitant to get out of it, but I realized I'm just stuck here. I can't do anything with this. I have to move out of it. So once I realized that the diet was giving me rules, but it wasn't giving me an understanding. It wasn't until I started tracking macros. And it's not until my clients start to look at tracking macros with more optimism that they really understand, oh, I get it now. I understand why I was eating too much. I understand that I thought I was quote unquote eating healthy. And maybe you are eating healthy, but that's not going to get you always to the body that you want. It's just, there's a lot to understand there. And it's going to be harder if you fight against it saying like, it's too obsessive. I can't do it. It takes too much time. Those are all just excuses and it's not true. Coming from anyone who actually tracks their food and knows how to do it correctly, they will tell you it's not that time consuming. It's really not that hard. It's going to be fine. You can do it. It's actually easier than shopping off of a food list or counting points or counting the containers. It's actually a hell of a lot, honestly, easier than that. So where this came from, again, there was a moment the other day when I was actually measuring out my Greek yogurt. So I have decided to kind of beef up my meals a little bit. I'm going into a cut and I'm still in that phase of what do I want to eat? What do I want to cut out? How am I going to increase protein, increase volume without it being a shit ton of calories? So every day I have a Chobani Greek yogurt cup and I have it with usually like Heath bits or maybe a couple blueberries or something on top. Not a lot. It's not a substantial amount of calories. And I'm always hungry afterwards. So I needed to beef that meal up. And that was my goal for the day. So I took my little container of my Chobani yogurt and I spooned it out into a bowl. And then I took our huge container, huge from Costco, of Greek yogurt that was in the refrigerator. I looked at the serving size. It was 2/3 cup for, I think it was 16 grams of protein. And I don't remember the other macros, but I knew that I wasn't hungry enough to eat the cup that I had just spooned out, the amount of that, and a 2/3 cup serving of the Greek yogurt. So I wanted half of that. And I thought, well, I could just get out my 1/3 cup measuring spoon or measuring cup. But then I thought, I could be completely accurate here and see what it looks like. So I got out my scale, put my bowl in there and zeroed it out. And then I spooned out 1/3 cup, or I actually didn't do the cups. I did the ounces, grams. I don't remember. I measured it out. That's what I did. Doesn't matter. But I did half of a serving and, mix that all together. And then I put a banana in there, chopped up, and I put some blueberries in there and some granola and a little bit of Manuka honey. And it was actually so filling. And so I'm going to work my way up to, hopefully I can get to 2/3 cup plus my other. I don't like plain Greek yogurt. It actually might not taste bad with the granola that I use in the Manuka honey. Maybe I'll try it. But right now I have a shit ton of yogurt cups to go through. So I'm just beefing up my meal. Anyway, while I was looking at the back of that container, I thought, 2/3 cup, that's kind of a lot. I already have other things in there. I don't need that much. I need half. And then it was in that moment that I thought, I'm going to get out my scale and I'm going to track this. And then I thought, that took me 2 seconds, maybe not. It took me 20 seconds to measure out this food. People say it's time consuming. It's so annoying. Leave your scale out then. Mine is black and it's nice and shiny and it looks cute. I can leave it on the counter and I can just grab it, zero out my plate. I'm putting it in the bowl anyway. I'm spooning out the yogurt and I'm putting it in the bowl. The only extra step I had to do was get out the scale and put the bowl on the scale instead of the counter. And I zeroed it out and I spooned it out. And when I got to, I think it was 70 grams, then I knew that was the serving size. So then I could track it. I knew that I had just added, it had to have been more protein than that. Either way, I had just added some protein and some calories to my meal that I was already having. And then, so in that moment, I realized, okay, this isn't time consuming. This isn't hard. And this is a serving. And then I had another epiphany of the back of this container tells me the serving size and it tells me all of the macros. When I was like, and I just had a moment of, honestly, it sounds crazy, right? I'm eating food and putting food on the food scale and I'm having an epiphany. But I just thought, thank God I know how to do this because I have goals to hit right now and I know how to do it. I know how to do it. And it's honestly not thanks to containers. It's not thanks to Weight Watchers. It's not thanks to any kind of a diet. It's actually knowing the serving size, the tools to measure the serving size, and eating how I need to eat, hitting my macros. Then I thought, that's why people are stuck. That's why the containers didn't work for me because I would have to take this yogurt. It would be on the food list. So it would probably be plain Greek yogurt off of the food list that I had to choose from at the time from Beachbody. I would have to spoon that out. I would grab the container of yogurt, and then I would grab the container that I had to put it in, right? And I think that would fall under blue because it would, probably fall into fats, I assume. I don't even remember. And then I would spoon the yogurt into the blue container until it reached the top. And then I would dump that in my bowl, right? I'm taking steps, but I don't know how big that blue container is. Is that 1/3 cup? Is that a 4th cup? How many calories? How much protein? What is it? What is this food? Is it a fat? Is it a protein? Is it a carb? It's all three. It's calories. How much, right? I'm not learning anything. So without those containers, then I'm stuck. Like I did not know what to do without that. That's exactly what a diet does for you. It gives you structure and it gives you rules, but it doesn't teach you anything. This ties very much into a couple weeks ago when I talked about what fitness gave me. Besides a body that I love, this is where that confidence comes from. Little things like this, where if someone were to say, hey, that's not a serving, or if that's not good for you, I can fight back and say, nah, yeah, it is, because I know what I'm doing, right? If I don't have that knowledge, then I can't stand up for myself and have that confidence. So many of us have been taught to follow food rules and follow the structure that comes with a diet that someone sells you, but not how to understand food. And that's why I'm so passionate about unfucking people's fitness, because this is the shit that keeps you stuck. It keeps you reliant on other people and it takes your confidence away. I wasn't confident in what I was eating unless it was from that food list and it was going into a container, a colored container, right? That's the only way I was confident. And I thought, well, this is actually bullshit. I'm not doing this for the rest of my life. Like, what? I'm not eating like this for the rest of my life. I have got to figure this out. So that was me, is what I'm trying to say. I have been there, so I understand. I realized that one of the first ways that I learned to eat healthy was through those containers. I learned that red meant protein, blue meant fat, and green meant veggies. And I think veggies I think they're free in Weight Watchers. Like you don't have to track them or you don't have to count them. In Beachbody, I think we had like 7, based on, of course, like my calorie range. I think I had 5 or 6 boxes of red, like protein to get, and I had like 7 or 8 vegetables, cups of vegetables, servings of vegetables, containers of vegetables that I was supposed to eat. And while that system did work in the sense that I felt in control, it also kept me from learning what I was actually eating. Like I said, I'd spoon it out, I'd put it in that container, and then I'd put it on my plate, but I didn't know what it was comprised of, what that food was. I thought it was a good food because it was on the list. It just really warped my vision of food. I was following a system built by someone else. I wasn't building an understanding. And that's the difference that I want to talk about. Let's first dive into why diets actually work at first. So, most diets work in the beginning because they create structure that I mentioned. And that feels good. Like I'm over here, I have no clue what I'm doing. I want to lose weight or I want to get fit. This is creating structure for me. So, it usually helps people eat less overall, become more aware of food, reduce mindless eating, feel more in control, and follow a clear set of rules, which feels really good, right? That's why people get attached to it, is because it feels really good. It's not because the system is magic. It's not because Beachbody is the end all be all. And because it worked for me, I sold it. And I thought, I need to be a Beachbody coach. I need to tell everybody about this. And that felt good until it didn't. And it worked for people until it didn't. And I thought, this is not right. It's not even working for me anymore, right? It's because the structure often helps people. So it's not the system, it's not the company, it's not the diet that's working, it's the structure that's working. The eating less overall, becoming more aware of your food, stopping that mindless eating. All of those things are working, but you can do that in a much healthier way, in a way where you have the education and knowledge to keep going, right? So most diets are not special, but they get you to pay attention. And that is the key in all of this and creating longevity. Next, I want to talk about the problem with those simplified systems. You go into it thinking that this is so simple, it works for so and so. You see the before and afters, you get the discount, you get the money back guarantee, you get all the things, and you're like, okay, here we go. That system, it stops when you stop complying with it. The whole system goes out the window, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The issue is that that system works, for Beachbody system, worked until I stopped doing it. Then it's not going to work, clearly. So people will often say, well, that diet really worked for me. It did while you were doing it, right? It's not a lifestyle if you have to stop doing it. So what simplified systems teach you, and there's nothing wrong with simplified systems in a certain way, they teach you what to eat, right? I had a food list. It teaches you what to avoid. If it wasn't on the food list, I shouldn't have it. Then I thought it was bad and it would make me fat and so on and so forth. It teaches you what fits the plan. There are rules and it teaches you how to stay on track. You follow this food list, you follow these portion control containers, you cross them off every single day on this tracker that they give you, and you're good, right? The moment you stop doing that, I don't know what the fuck you're going to do, but during that, it's great. What it does not always teach you is what a serving size looks like, how many calories you're eating. I spent years knowing zero about how many calories I was eating, which is the base of what you should know about your body, how many calories you're outputting and how many calories you're inputting. I spent so many years living off of this other plan, these simplified structures, that I had no fucking idea how much I was eating. That is crazy to me that I could follow. Again, even with Weight Watchers and all those, they don't tell you what you're doing, right? Some of these programs out here, even what I was doing, Beachbody and Herbalife and all these, it's like drink a shake for lunch, drink a shake for breakfast, drink a shake for lunch, and then eat your dinner. What? How many calories am I eating? Like, it's crazy to me that that is something that I went through years of doing this and not knowing how many calories I was eating, how much protein, carbs, and fats you need, which is the basis of your energy, which is the basis of your body. Mind blowing to me. How to adjust intake based on your goals. And it doesn't teach you how to eat without the program. So when the system ends, people feel lost. It's a 12-week plan, right? You signed up for, you got the discount again, all the things. As soon as that's over, what are you doing? You have no idea. You have learned nothing. And I know that because that was me. You learned how to follow the plan. You're really good at Weight Watchers. You're really good at Beachbody portion control containers, but you have no idea how to think on your own or how to pivot or how to change all the things that we need to unfuck here, right? So let's break down some of these diets. The Beachbody containers, what it is, a portion controlled system using color-coded containers for different food groups. Why it worked for me. It gives structure and specific foods to eat. It controls your portions. It makes people more aware of what they are eating. definitely. And it can lower calories without saying count calories. I wasn't counting calories, but I 100% decreased my calorie intake from when I started. It doesn't teach you what those portions actually equal. It doesn't teach you calories or macros. It doesn't help you understand how to adjust for your specific body or your goals. If I wanted to gain more muscle, I would have no idea which one of those containers to increase or if I even needed to. I knew nothing. And it can keep you dependent on the container program. So personally for me, I used that system and it helped me in the beginning. But now I realize that it taught me how to fill a container, not to understand food. And also, if foods weren't on the list, I thought they were bad. And also, how am I supposed to fit a slice of pizza or some Oreos in that container? Right? I mean, what about the foods that like don't fit? Then what? So that's where I kind of felt stuck. Like, I want to eat these other foods again. What do I do if I don't put in a container first? Do I crunch up the Oreos, put them in the container? It just felt kind of stupid at the end of the day. So I was over it. Okay, let's talk about Weight Watchers. I've known a lot of people personally who have done Weight Watchers, and I've been around it a lot to see how people do on it. And I have a lot of clients that have come from Weight Watchers. So I want to break this down as well. What is it? It's a point-based system where foods are assigned values and you stay within a daily budget. Why it works short term, it creates awareness, gives boundaries, it can reduce overeating. It feels simpler than tracking calories or macros. I'm in some Facebook groups where people talk about they will share a recipe and say it's only 2 points. It's only 2 points. And I look at it and I'm thinking, okay, this is probably 250 calories, a couple grams of protein, looks really low carb because God forbid we eat a carb. So I can look at that and break down what it is because I put in the time. But to see someone just share a recipe so blindly saying, you should try this. Here's the ingredients. It's only 2 points. The fuck does that even mean? Like we are grown adults giving points, assigning points to food. Just wild to me. Anyway, why it falls short. It teaches you to chase points and not understand nutrition. Noted. It can create confusion around foods that are low points, but not necessarily aligned with your goals. Case in point is what I just talked about. And it does not always help you understand protein, carbs, fats, or overall intake in a meaningful way. I would often say that it never helps you understand protein, carbs, or fats, or calories, right? So exactly what I'm saying in these Facebook groups, it's like, these are only 2 points. You can eat however many a day. Well, yeah, but that's going to add up to like 600 calories. And at the end of the day, you probably don't need to be eating 600 calories of this shitty food. You're still not going to hit your goals. You're probably going to lose a little weight. You're going to be in a calorie deficit. You're going to be more conscious for a little while. Then you're going to get sick of these dumb foods. You're going to get hungry. You're going to not want to count points anymore. You don't want to pay these people for the rest of your life to go to these meetings. It's just kind of insane. So case in point, low points does not mean it's healthy or going to help you hit your goals, right? You're going to hit a plateau. You're going to be stuck and you're going to quit. So points are just another version of a food rule if you don't understand what they actually represent, which is where macros and tracking comes into play. Let's talk about keto though. What it is, a very low carb, high fat diet. Why it works short term, it often reduces food choices. It may reduce appetite for some people. It cuts out a lot of processed foods and snacking, and it may create a quick drop on the scale. 100%. I hear every single one of those things from people. What it falls short in, many people do not understand whether the results come from cutting carbs or simply eating fewer calories overall. And most people don't even care, which is even more sad. It can create fear around carbs, percent. It's very hard to sustain long term, and it does not automatically teach someone to build balanced meals for life. You can't build a balanced meal with no carbs. That's crazy. So cutting carbs is not the same as understanding nutrition. It's just not the same. And when that's the basis of a diet, which was created for a specific medical reason, by the way, it's not something that we should do. It's not healthy. And then lastly, let's talk about intermittent fasting, because this is one I come into contact with a lot as well, with a lot of questions. What it is, intermittent fasting is just eating within a certain time window. I've done this. Have I done all of these? I've never done Weight Watchers, but I did hear a lot of people doing it around me. So I would kind of be like, oh, I wonder how many points this is. Who cares? Why it works short term, it can reduce snacking. It gives structure and it may naturally reduce calories. Obviously, if you're only eating from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m., unless you eat every single one of those hours, right? Like all that entire time, you're probably going to be eating less. That's usually what intermittent fasting does overall. It just reduces calories and people think it's amazing and they think it's magical when really they're just eating less. But the time window creates that structure that people are looking for. It falls short in the ways of the eating window itself is not magic. And people think, well, if you eat after 6 p.m., that's bad. Or if I start eating before 11 a.m., that's bad. I can only eat between these hours. That really, really worked for me. People still need to have an understanding of how much they're eating and whether it supports their goals. Like, it really falls short in it's a lot of restriction mindset. And I think it really falls short in figuring out how much you're eating and whether that supports your goals long term. And chances are it just doesn't if you're intermittent fasting, because most people, when I try to reverse diet people up to a calorie amount that they need to be hitting, it's almost always too high. And they think, I'm not hungry enough to eat that. I can't eat all that in one day. So if you're cutting down your eating window, you probably have a less chance of eating what you need to be eating that day. Another way that it falls short is that some women that I know will use fasting as another way to undereat all day and then overeat later. So it's a way to track your food during the day and then, say, fuck it, I'm hungry and I'm going to go outside my window, but just today, I'm just going to do it today, right? Or just on the weekends. So I'm going to restrict all week and then I'm not going to do intermittent fasting on the weekends. So they just overeat all weekend and drink too much and then they throw all the progress out the window. So it's not really fixing a whole lot of anything. It's not the clock. It's not the time that you're eating, the food timing. Your intake still matters overall. And so those are just some ways that the diet works and what it creates. And what it creates is not terrible things. Structure, reduced calories, right? Structure, structure, structure. Like, that's what we really want. We think we want anyway. We really need knowledge, but it creates that structure that we're looking for. It's like those short term, like those quick wins where we're like, yes, this is working. I know exactly what to do. I know exactly how long to do it, what time of day and how many points it is, but I can only do it for a couple weeks or a couple days even. And then I don't know what to do after that. So really not helpful in the long run. And this is the next thing I want to talk about is where I was in my kitchen measuring my food, having this epiphany of, I knew this, right? Don't get me wrong. Like, scooping my Greek yogurt onto the bowl wasn't like, oh, this is how you do it. I know this, but it was just another way of me personally seeing it for myself and then thinking, yes, like reiterating, like, this is exactly what people need to know. This is exactly why people are stuck, because we go from one diet to the next, to the next, to the next. And all it does is reinforce the structure and the under eating and the restriction and the food list. Every single diet does the same thing. They're good at the same thing. They're also really bad, like I mentioned, at the same thing. If you go through all the diets that I just talked about, they're very similar. There's restrictions, there's timelines, there's guidelines, and then there's an end date because you can't do it long term. And then they still don't teach you what you need to know to have a healthy body, right? It's like any quick fix out there, which right now the biggest quick fix I would say is the GLP-1 trend, which I'm not going to get into on this episode, but it's the same thing as far as just taking something that creates structure or less of an appetite or ways around something instead of knowledge. That doesn't create any knowledge for you. And I don't think that's where it's necessarily something we've been taught. I don't remember going into Beachbody saying like, oh, I don't want to track my food. I'm just want to be lazy and, do this instead. It wasn't that I was lazy and it wasn't that I was actually looking for a quick fix. It's just all that's out there. It's all over. There's GLP-1 commercials all over. There were Beachbody commercials all over. There's South Beach, there's keto, there's intermittent fasting, there's Weight Watchers, shit everywhere, right? It's in your face. So I get it. I've never seen a commercial about tracking your macros. What's going on? So I understand it, right? And I was stuck in that too. But that's where it gets more personal and deeper for me is when I was tracking that, I thought, thank God I can do this, right? Thank God I just don't have to wing it. I actually I was making a sandwich the other day. And so I had my food scale out again. Look at me go. I need a refresher every once in a while. And my relationship with the food scale and tracking is really good. So I had my food scale out. I got a plate, put it on there, zeroed it out. I got a piece of bread on there, cut it in half, and then I zeroed it out. And I needed 2 ounces of turkey. So I got my 2 ounces of turkey on there, which by the way was less than I thought. I would have put more on there. I would have put more on there if I wasn't tracking it, but I ended up, being able to look at it and was tracking it. So I got my 2 ounces of turkey on there and then I zeroed it out again. And then I put on this avocado ranch dressing that I love. And I realized that I think it was 90 calories for tablespoons. I didn't put nearly that much on my little tiny half of a sandwich. I only used one slice of bread and cut it in half. And only because I was going out to eat with my daughter and I wanted to save calories for later in the day. Otherwise, I would have had a full sandwich. Okay. Don't get it twisted. But I looked at the back of that container and I've never measured that before. And I put that avocado ranch. I think it's avocado ranch. It's some Taco Bell brand. Probably really bad for you, but here anyway. And I looked at it and thought, okay, that's about 45 calories. So I could kind of estimate it in my head, but it was super freaking simple to just put something on the sandwich, zero that scale out, put something else on the sandwich, zero that scale out. And that was nice too. But putting like all of that is just, it's just really came into my head of like, this isn't a good food. This isn't a bad food. It's bread. It's sauce. It's Greek yogurt. It's not off of a food list. I'm not putting it in a container. I'm logging it and I'm seeing at the back of the container. I can read it. I understand what those things mean, right? I put in the time to be able to do that, but that's who's winning. The people who understand this are the people who are winning. The people who took the time to do that. Those are the people that are winning. You will never understand food accidentally. You will never have the body you love accidentally. Okay. No one wakes up at 45, 50 years old, not knowing like just doing Weight Watchers their whole life and intermittent fasting in their 40s and 50s. No one wakes up and is like, damn, there's nothing about my body I would change. I understand everything. My muscle mass is good. I'm reading a smart scale. It doesn't happen on accident. Okay. It doesn't happen by following these diets and being stuck. I'm able to say by tracking this and learning, this is how much I'm eating. This is how much protein it gives me. This is how many calories it has. This is how it fits into my day. And this is what portion control actually means for my body and for my goals. I know by just adding a half serving of Greek yogurt, it filled me up. I felt great. I didn't have to eat again for another couple hours. And that's what I needed was more protein with less calories and some more beef to my meals. This is a completely different level of understanding. It just really clicked for me that day. And I thought I need to do a episode about this because this is exactly why people are stuck. So a diet gives you instructions. Education gives you ownership. And I've talked about this before on the podcast, so this is not something new, but a diet gives you information. You have information at your fingertips. Education gives you ownership. And that's what I talk about all the time. The standards, the being real with it. You have to take ownership of your own health and your body and your food. That's the only way to get in control of it. Okay. Now I want to talk quickly about why this matters for body recomposition, because if you want to look different, you need clarity. It's not going to happen by accident. Like I said, it's not obsession. It's not restriction. It's not another cute system with points or colored containers. You have to know how much you're eating. You have to know if you're eating enough protein, if you're eating enough carbs and fats, if your food choices match your goals, what your intake looks like, if you are trying to build muscle, if you're trying to lose fat, if you're trying to maintain, if you're trying to reverse diet. And I know that sounds like a lot. It's really not. It's really like, what do you want for your body? Do you want to build muscle? Okay. These are the calories you need to hit. Okay. These are the macros you need to hit. Get a tracking app and track it. It's not that hard. These are the things that you have to know. Otherwise, your other option is to start a diet, track on these shitty ways that I told you about, do it for a couple weeks, feel stuck, and quit again. Like that's the only other option. Okay. But when you want a specific result, you need a specific understanding. And let me just tell you, it's not hard. Okay. I've been doing this for 17 years. I'm 44 years old. It very easily fits into my life and I'm busy. I don't just sit on my ass all the time and have a lot of free time. Okay. It's not hard. It's really simple. It does take a little time consuming. It's like going back to school and you got to learn something new. It really doesn't take that long. It's really easy to understand. It's actually easier to understand than one of these diets. I'll just tell you right now. And I know that because I learned it that way. And I know that because my clients learn it that way. They're like, oh, this actually is pretty simple. Like I get it. I wish I would have done this a lot sooner. So just to kind of recap here, diets fail long-term when it leaves you dependent on the system. When you are dependent on a system, you will fail because you can't live on that system for the rest of your life. If you keep thinking I guess I should say it this way, when you do a diet and you start to think, and all of my clients have thought this way in one way or another, I was really good when I did that program. I was really good when I did keto. I love that term. I was really good. What does that mean? I was really good at what? Not eating carbs? What were you really good at, right? Or I need to get back on track. I say that too, but that's if you're saying, I was really good when I did that program. I need to get back on track. I don't know what to eat unless I'm doing keto, or I don't know when to eat unless I'm doing intermittent fasting, or I gained weight because I stopped doing X, Y, and Z diet. If you say those things, that's not freedom. That's absolute dependency on a program that works for you while you can do it. And if you could do it long term, you would. You would have. You wouldn't have quit, but you can't. So you need to stop that. Okay. And what we need to do instead is instead of asking ourselves what rules we need to follow, we need to be asking what we actually need. It's not about the rules and about the diet. It's about what you need. What does my body need? How much protein? How much food? What portions actually support my goals? When should I personally eat based on my lifestyle? What helps me feel good? What do I need to understand so that I can stop starting over? Now, that seems a little complicated, and I want you to go back and listen to other episodes to kind of figure that out. I have a macro series from a couple of months ago. There's so many ways to figure that out, but I would definitely start there. If you can actually write down these questions, I'll put them in the show notes. What does my body actually need? How much protein do I need? And you can look that up. How much food am I really eating? You know that by tracking it. What portions support my goals? Can figure that out. What helps me feel good, perform well, and stay consistent? And what do I need to understand so that I do not have to keep starting over? If you can answer those questions, you will really start to think about how you restrict and what you can do going forward and what you really want for yourself. Perfect little segue here. The spring mini break that I mentioned in the short little ad in the beginning of this podcast, this is exactly what I'm going to be talking about in this mini break. We are going to have a day talking about mindset, how you need to think. We're going to have a day talking about macros, what you need to eat, how much, and what macros mean for your body. And we're going to be talking about workouts as well, because your calorie intake and your calorie output, they don't need to be balanced calorie for calorie, but your goals do matter. And so in this mini break, which is April 13th, it's a 3-day challenge. The link is in my bio to sign up. Please come join us. It's $35. It's going to be amazing. You will understand what your body needs, what you're missing, why what you have been doing isn't working, how to get out of that, what simple changes are actually necessary to make. That it's not about another diet. It's not about doing things perfectly. It's just literally about understanding how you should eat, how much, what you should be working out like, and what your thoughts should be. Maybe not so much weight loss right now. We'll determine, how do you know if you need to lose weight or if you need to gain muscle first. We're going to be talking about all of that inside of the spring mini break workshop. So come join us. I think this will be a perfect opportunity to work on what we talked about in this episode. But if you don't want to join us, that's fine too. At least take away from this episode an understanding of why you feel stuck all the time, why people are stuck in diets. I know a lot of my clients have moms who are stuck in things like this. So many of my clients are at the age where their moms were in a constant diet cycle when their moms were younger. So my clients are looking up to their mom saying, man, my mom is just really, really stuck. She will not stop doing these things that she shouldn't be doing. Like once you start to understand these things, you kind of look at people and it's kind of sad because you're like, they're just so stubborn and my mom will not eat carbs and my mom will not go for a walk and my mom will not weight lift and my mom is just stuck on being skinny and low fat this and all these foods are bad. You know, things from 40 years ago, right? That women were being pressured with and how diets were then and what body positivity and like all of that stuff has done to this diet cycle, like this world. And so it's important that you take ownership of that and know that it does come from somewhere. You have family members that have impacted how you think about food. And this is a really good way to get out of it, just to understand this is why diets aren't working. This is what they've taught me. And that's true. And it's also not taught me things, right, that I need to know. And this is why they're not working. It's not that the diet is magic. It's not that you are broken. You don't even need another fucking diet. We need to just understand our bodies. Let me tell you, like, I know it may sound like hard work. I promise you it's not. I promise you it's not. Like once you get used to an app that you love to track food, once you start to understand your body and food, and it doesn't take long. You guys are smart. It does not take long to scan a food and see a protein shake has a lot of protein. A sandwich has some carbs and some protein and some fat if you put dressing on it, right? Oatmeal, carbs. It doesn't take long to figure out what foods are comprised of. But once you do know that, like the sky's the limit as far as what you can do and having that control of like, this is what I should eat. This is what I shouldn't eat. This is how much I do. Not shouldn't because it's bad, should eat because it helps me to hit my goals. Because I have goals, I should eat this. Because I have goals, I shouldn't eat that right now. So it's just really eye-opening. And I think it's just such a good way to look at the diet cycles of like, this is why it works, but it will never work long term for me. And I need to get out of that mentality. So come join us in the Spring Ready Break. It's going to be an absolute blast. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll talk to you next week.